Morning, Year 6, and welcome to the English lesson for today, Friday the 15th of January. This week we've been writing a scientific report. And remember that your report is all about the woodland project that you undertook. And across the week you've been drafting your report by having a single paragraph plan and then drafting that as a paragraph. And some of you who had quite a lot of writing, maybe a paragraph or two. And in that report, you were sharing your findings from your woodland report in a really formal, precise tone, conveyed using a wide range of scientific vocabulary. And we sometimes call that vocabulary Tier 3 or academic vocabulary. So well done for that. The structure of the report had subheadings and paragraphs, and these writing skills were chosen to aid clear communication, understanding, and cohesion. The whole point of writing is to share something, in this case, the outcomes of a project, a science project, with an audience. The next stage in the writing process will be editing and then revisions. And they can be used to publish your field study for your audience. However, today I thought it might be really nice to take a diversion, a really important diversion on this Friday after working so incredibly hard. I want you to plan for and complete a scientific poster. So over your time at primary school, I'm sure you've done a lot of posters, and it may surprise you to know that scientists use them quite extensively to communicate with an audience and share their work. In some ways, scientists have to persuade people to engage in their work, because for a lot of scientists who want to, like you, create groundbreaking work, they need to create an interest to get the finance and get people on board. So I'm going to go through some guidance for creating a scientific poster of your own. So as I say, they're widely used within the science community at talks and conferences, and it's actually the talks to your audience where I would like you to use your poster to fit together and complement your science report. So in essence, as I alluded to, it's an advertisement for your area of work, in this case, the field study. But also you're raising awareness of that habitat, hopefully sparking a debate, getting people talking, getting people engaged and interested. In order for this poster to be both academic, scientific in nature, and to be really effective, and that means to communicate with your audience effectively, it needs to have certain key features, and I'm going to run through those with you. So please pause the video at points where you want to read the information, make notes, maybe just make a plan as you go through, a sketch on some scrap paper or a notebook. So you need to know what is your purpose in creating the poster. So you want to grab attention to your audience. You're going to be talking to an audience, sharing with an audience through publishing these posters, so that you can talk about your research project. Now, these are the sorts of audiences that I think are most common for us. So other researchers, so definitely students, perhaps there might be other classes who'd be interested, the public, your parents. And I know that Mrs. Kitson is is really waiting. She's spoken to me several times and has even looked at some of the videos. She's following keenly your progress in drawing this information together. You need to be really aware of your audience, because depending on who they are from this group, they're going to have different levels of knowledge. So other researchers, of course, they're really going to kind of be very aware of the woods and the ecosystems and the language that you're using. But the public, potentially less well, or students and people who haven't undertaken this project. So you really have to make sure that you're thinking about the audience and structuring in a way that has them at the forefront of your scientific mind. And this might be particularly important when using terminology. Terminology might need to be explained a little bit. So remember, if you want to make any notes, sketch out a plan in your notebook or on some paper, pause now. So moving on, what content needs to be included? Everything that you include must relate in some way to your project, and that would include any graphics and text. For you, the graphics are highly likely to be your own diagrams, illustrations, observational pictures. If you have done any research, as I suggested in the last lesson, maybe on the web, maybe other books, maybe mention that. But remember, be selective. You're not going to be able to put everything in. You've now drafted out a really comprehensive report, and it's not going to be possible to include everything, because you want to include what is most important. And what is most important? Well, it depends what you're trying to get across to your audience and how you want to kind of bring them with you and not put them off, not alienate them, because if they're not interested, they're not going to stick with your poster. So in organizing the poster, think about how much text should be given to explaining background information, research questions and results. The visual elements of this poster are going to be really important. If you want to make any notes, read that, have a think about it, discuss it in your support study group, pause the video there. So poster design, you can look at this in your own time because I want you to decide which elements you're going to use. So there's a section on layout. Some of the information is familiar to you. The reading order. This is something really important, I think, for you to know. In the first 3 seconds of looking at a poster, it's a really short amount of time. The reader is going to decide whether to stay and explore or move on. They might have other things to do, but you want them to stay there, be interested, and hear and learn from your scientific experiences. So here are a couple of layouts, this one with the title and then following the flow of information in columns, quite similar to newspaper reporting. Title is a longer. This is the way your audience's eye is going initially, and they're picking up key information. So along that line, even though you're writing in these columns, you're drawing in these columns, you want very eye-catching information if you're going to use this element of design, because this is where the eye of your reader is going to track. Have a look through this, because there's some very useful tips on keeping people engaged, not making it too text heavy, having a really nice balance between different elements of communication. Have a pause, maybe decide which of these you might be thinking of using. So some really valuable information here about the kinds of text. Of course, you're writing it, so you might find that things like italics may be a bit difficult, but underlining and capitals, it does say use it sparingly. Your eye can get drawn to these things at the expense of something else. But then if you underline it all or do it all in capitals, it all just blends into one anyway. So use that really carefully, really thoughtfully. Some key writing skills, looking at the paragraph breaks, the bullet points, how you're going to present images, graphs, tables, and color. We all love to apply color. We know how visually appealing that is. But you don't want to obscure or block out your scientific aim. You don't want to distract. So you're not really presenting here a colorful piece of art, but you are using color in very clever and subtle ways to draw that reader in and keep them hooked. So rather than distracting them, you'd want to engage them. So a final look at, there's a checklist. Once you've done your poster, read your poster over carefully to check for spelling mistakes. Stand back from your poster and see how it looks from afar. Show it to someone who hasn't seen it before. What's their reaction? What questions do they raise? If they are raising questions about things they don't understand because it's the science, I think that's okay. But if they're a bit bemused by the layout, maybe you need to have a rethink. So that's the end of the information today. I want you to pause now while there's just a blank screen there. You've got endless options, but at the heart of this is getting across that scientific information, the things that you set out to do, the things that you did, the things you achieved, the conclusions that you have drawn. And in presenting your poster, you want a double page spread within your book, even if that means for now missing out a page. So you want a double page, and you can orientate it in landscape or portrait, whichever you decide. I hope you enjoy this. I look forward to seeing them. In today's learning, probably the English is going to take more of your time. It's hard to know exactly, but you might be working on this for an hour and a half, even 2 hours. But hopefully, because you have less maths today, it'll all balance out. Good luck, Year 6, and take care.